Working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for You is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for You.
Good afternoon and welcome to Working for You. I am Lesroy Williams. We do apologize for the late start. We were experiencing some technical difficulty. We thank you very much for tuning in to today's program, wherever you are. Today we are going to be discussing International Women's Day, which is celebrated each year on March 8th, a date set by the United Nations. And today I have with me officials from the Department of Gender Affairs. We are going to be engaging in a very lively discussion on gender issues. And I have two very competent persons on the panel. I have Mrs. Celia Christopher, who is the Acting Director in the Department of Gender Affairs, and I have Mrs. Chanel Charles, who is the Senior Gender Field Officer. Welcome to you both to this program.
Thank you.
International Women's Day, as the name implies, is dedicated to celebrating womanhood, their social, political, cultural, economic achievements, and their significant contributions to society. The day also emphasizes the importance of gender equality. On this day, people from all across the world come together to partake in the celebration of womanhood. Before I engage my guests, I want to give three quotes, some very prominent women, things that they have said. Golda Meir, who was the former Prime Minister of Israel, said, "Whether women are better than men, I cannot say, but I can say they are certainly no worse." Eleanor Roosevelt, who was the longest serving First Lady of the United States, politician, diplomat, and activist, she said, "A woman is like a tea bag. You never know how strong she is until she gets in hot water." And Malala Yousafzai, the Pakistani activist for female education and the youngest Nobel Prize laureate, she said, "Extremists have shown what frightens them most, a girl with a book." These are three quotes. Before we get into the thick of things, I would ask you, Mrs. Christopher and Mrs. Charles, to give me your quote about women. I am putting you on the spot. What would be your quote about women? I've just given you three quotes. What would be your quote? What would you say?
I would say women are central to development, and therefore their voices must be heard.
Chanel?
Okay. For me, I must say that, women are the backbone of our society, and without a backbone, there's no function.
Okay, thank you. Celia,
So-
you want to start the ball rolling?
Yes,
Before
I want to have a minute of silence for all of the women in this country who are victims of violence, especially the two sisters who were recently brutally murdered. I pray that God, that those who are left to mourn, that God would grant them comfort at this time. And I'm going to give you a little overview, a brief overview of International Women's Day. International Women's Day is celebrated all over the world on March 8th. The 2018 theme for the United Nations is Challenges and Opportunities in Achieving Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Rural Women and Girls. But the local theme for International Women's Day is Press for Progress. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we have not limited our celebration of International Women's Day to one day, as our women are central to the development of our country on all levels, and as such, they deserve much more than a single day to celebrate their significant contribution. Ever since the first International Women's Day was held in March 1911, the world began to take even greater notice of the fact that the role of women must be acknowledged, documented, and encouraged. Every observance of International Women's Day has been about gender parity for women in the social, cultural, economic, and political life of the country. This means that our women must be empowered to participate in all spheres of human endeavor, whether it is the world of work, family life, education, training, skills development, politics, and community development. Women must also be empowered to participate in every area of career development, be it in education, science and technology, agriculture, construction, finance, private sector leadership, healthcare, and parliament. Parliament in particularly, where we now represent 20% of the membership. But we want much more than that. We want more women in parliament where the important decisions are made. So I would like to see all political parties include women in their slate of candidates. We really want to get to 30% of women in parliament. Women should also be empowered and aspire to participate in leadership at the regional and international level. I want to sincerely thank all women in whatever way they have contributed to this country, and to wish each of them a happy International Women's Day on Thursday. Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Christopher, thank you for that. The local hashtag, of course, the theme is Press for Progress. What is behind this theme, Chanel? Press for Progress. How would you define women's progress in society? I know that Mrs. Christopher outlined that she would like to see women in some prominent roles within the society and positions so that they can make decisions and so on. But while that may speak about roles and positions, progress is really about something else. Because people can be in certain positions and have certain roles in the society, but yet the progress is not as forthcoming and rapid as it really should be.
Yes, Press for Progress. The theme for this year is quite fitting because, as it says, Press for Progress, it's explanatory. Ms. Christopher talked about 20% of women being in parliament, but I believe there should be 50-50 equal, because we're talking about gender parity, and
Sure.
that's equal. Okay, that's politics, but I believe that in also categories, I would like, more women to come on board, more women to stand out, even as a prime minister. Right?
Right.
I think that will be possible. It can be possible for us. You spoke about the hashtag. In our calendar for this year, we started a hashtag on the 1st of March. And what we are doing is that we are adding one woman per day from different categories. We started with police and we continue on each day with a different woman saying, using the hashtag, I am woman sergeant or I am woman athlete. And there's a picture that will show that woman in St. Kitts. So we are asking if anybody else wants to add anybody else to it. We are welcoming. We ask that you can call us and we can use your picture. That would be good for us also.
I know sometimes people say that, look, we want a woman prime minister, or we want a woman attorney general, or we want a woman commissioner. But really and truly, that has never been the criterion for anything. You just don't want a woman prime minister for the sake of just having a woman prime minister. You want a woman prime minister, but yet an exemplary woman prime minister. You want a woman attorney general, but somebody who brings, the background and the intelligence and so on to the position. And women, we have those women of virtue and intelligence and power and so on who can do it. But I'm simply saying, we cannot go on the premise that, we just want a woman prime minister, or we want a woman police commissioner, or we want a woman attorney general. But people who bring the virtues and the intelligence and the integrity and all of that to these positions. And in that way, I think it is really an example for other women to follow. Am I making any sense?
I agree. If you're aspiring to those positions, you must bring all of the attributes to the position that is required for that position. And as you quite rightly say, you don't just pick up a woman and put her in a position and say, we have a woman in a position. I have a problem. I have a difficulty with that, because if anybody is going to represent me, they have to be of top quality to represent the country. As a prime minister, they must be able to lead, they must be a leader, and they must show all of the qualities that is required for those positions that you spoke about.
Yes.
That is true, and I truly believe that we have those women in our society. Yes, I really do believe that, especially education-wise.
Right.
We do.
So there must be something wrong then
And
in terms of the selection process and the, how do we bring those women out,
you must,
and fill positions
right.
and so on.
To do that, they must be empowered. And I am saying, if we take, for example, the political political career, we have been asking political parties for some time now to include women in their slates of candidates whenever there is an election. You have to, they're in the party, they're there already. They do a lot of work in there. So it's just simply to move them up into where the decision-making process is. We can't just have them just there doing work.
Yes.
We need them at the table. We need to hear them. We need the voices to be heard.
Right.
I agree, Ms. Christopher, and you use the correct word, empowerment. They too have to want to step up to the plate and want that position for themselves. But you use the correct word, empowerment. So we have our work cut out for us in terms of empowering our women.
Also, to ensure that they step up to the plate, we have to also remove all of the barriers that are preventing them from stepping up to the plate, because there are some subtle barriers that you don't see, but they're there. And so we have to create the opportunities and make it possible for them to step up. Yes, we have women, we have plenty of women who could fill these positions, but as I said before, they need to be empowered and the barriers need to be removed.
Yes. Okay. Before we go on to the barriers and the challenges that women face within our society that prevent them from really self-actualization and so on, can you speak to the role, the contribution, and the impact of women in St. Kitts and Nevis society?
In St. Kitts and Nevis, women have always played a significant role from time immemorial. Their contribution has been well documented. And so, with all of that is happening, we expect women to have to hold their rightful place alongside the men. We don't expect anything less. And as I said before, we are appealing to people at the decision-making level to just create those opportunities for us to get to the table.
Yes.
And one may say, "Oh, you're already at the table," but we want to get to the point where the decisions, the important decisions, are made. Yes, I spoke about the 20%. That's an improvement over what we had, but we still expect to progress. We expect to continue progressing, and as I said, just remove the barriers. We are not really asking for affirmative action, but create those opportunities. Just create the opportunities, and I'm sure the leaders will emerge to fill those positions. They're just waiting for the opportunities.
Right.
And maybe if we don't get them, we might have to create them.
You know, once ago women was people used to say women is the weaker sex or the fairer sex. Do you think that women are the weaker sex?
No, this fairer sex and weaker sex thing is just a saying for me. Because as you can see, women are holding their own. They're holding their own right now.
Yes.
I mean, the men are there. They have always held their own. But women are pushing forward and making progress towards working alongside, not behind. We don't want no space behind. We want to be alongside, at the table. Possibly, if we have the attributes and qualification to lead, let us go in the front too.
So you really don't want anybody to sort of open the door for you? You want to open the door yourself?
Yes, we have women who could open the door. Well, we got to just remove the barriers and we'll push through.
Mr. Williams, the serious barriers. Open the door is something that a man can do, makes the woman feel good. But we're talking about the serious barriers. The door thing, that's fine. You can open the door for me.
Right.
No, I'm not talking about physical door,
Yes.
Making the opportunity is what I'm talking about. Creating the opportunity
That's
for women
the
to
serious
progress.
barriers.
There are opportunities, but we want more. Because our progress is slow and there is something that is holding us back. So whatever it is, just remove those barriers.
Okay, what are some of the achievements of women, would you say, in St. Kitts and Nevis? What have been some of the achievements?
Over the years, you have seen women progress from being in the home to being in the offices. And with that, they have been able to take on very important positions. For example, here in St. Kitts, the head of the finance, which is to me a powerful position in the finance department ministry, you have a woman who is heading that. The male-dominated fields, we have broke through some of those barriers, but the one barrier that we're trying to break and we're knocking for a while is the top barrier, the political barrier. I know we're going to get there someday because with over 60% of women in the country, they either going to give us the opportunity, as I said, or we'll make the opportunity.
Okay. Do you think that with women being out in the workplace, sometimes for very long hours and so on, that contributes in some way to children, young children, not being properly socialized? Because the mother plays a pivotal role in the socialization of children, especially at a very young age.
Yes, to a certain extent. But you also have to consider, in today's world, from where we have come, women have to now go out to work. They are no longer working just in the home, they are in the public and the private sphere. And so they are not able to supervise their children 24/7. And so a long time ago, you used to depend on the what do you call it? The extended family. If you look at what is happening now, the extended family is also working. And that creates a problem for women. And not just for women, but for the country. I know that the government has been trying to do something about that. They have created daycare centers and so on, so that the children can be at the daycare centers and so on, while their parents go to work. And coupled with that, another challenge that we have is that we have a very high single-headed household, female-headed household in St. Kitts, and that too could be part. That is also part of the problem.
The matrifocal,
Right.
And so women are not getting the assistance.
Right, and in some cases they're not getting the assistance to help
From-
to raise the children
Yes.
from the fathers of these children. I am not going to bash any fathers here today, because you have some very, very nice fathers out there who go out there where, man, I tell you,
Agreed.
some of them, if I had a crown, I'll put it on their head.
Yes.
They're good. But we need more men like those to come on board and help to raise the children, because with the cost of living and so on, sometimes you find you need more than just one person in the household who is bringing an income.
Sure. Now, Chanel, you were speaking about barriers, challenges. What would you say some of those barriers and challenges are faced by women in our society that really prevent them from realizing their dreams and aspirations, and so on?
Okay, I will more talk about probably the discrimination, what is expected, because we grow up in a society with expectations from our parents and expectations from school. Like in school, we expect that the boys to be the ones that pass mathematics, do physics, biology, those
Yes.
science subjects, and we expect the girls to be in the home economics class or in the typing class. But the barrier of discrimination is what, our department focuses on, trying to get gender parity out there, trying to change the mindset of the society that, not only a man can be a construction worker, but a woman also can be a construction worker. Last year, for International Women's Day, we had the area of construction, and there was actually a woman who we awarded last year in that area. Some persons were, quite amazed that we had that category, but we were proud. And she got that nomination and that award last year. But I would think that, when we are having these workshops about gender sensitization, I want the public to be a part. Yes, we send out the invitation probably via bulletin board or on the media, but what we want is the public to come on out, support us when we have these workshops, because what it does, it teaches us in the community, what is expected of us as man, or what is expected of us as woman, what is expected of us as children. So we're asking for that support to stop the discrimination
Right.
of gender.
Even some of the barriers. For example, government has enacted legislation to remove some of the barriers. Some of them are, as I said, overt and covert. They are in the system, and I expect that as we progress, that some of those barriers will be removed. We had one barrier of equal work for equal pay. That was removed. So we are on the same footing. You're doing the same job, you're getting the same pay. And those are the things. Gender equality is what we're trying to get at. Because everybody in the country should have equal access to all of the resources in the country, whatever it is. Everybody should have access to the resources in the country. And there should be no barriers that prevent them from, any one group from having access.
You spoke, Chanel, to gender sensitization and gender socialization, and to a certain extent gender roles and how somehow those are shifting, from the male dominated area of science and math and technology and so on. You have now more women entering that field and so on. But still in our society there is this philosophy that you loose the bull and you tie the heifer. You think that is still very prevalent, and what is being done in terms of gender sensitization and gender socialization to change this philosophy. Because you see, for example, people will get married, but the wife must stay at home while the bull must go to play.
Well, you see, back in those days, it probably could have worked. But you see the extent, you see what is happening when you continue that kind of thinking. Because what we have in our society today exactly relates that back to that. Loose the bull and tie the heifer. So it's all about the mindset and the gender sensitization. But we have the big challenge, we have a big cultural challenge of changing mindsets. It's all about behavior, and it's not easy to do. But the Department of Gender will continue. Every year we come and we say the same thing. We go around and we do workshops. We make all sorts of speeches. We make presentation to schools and all of that and so on. But that is still not enough. So we just got to keep at it. It's going to be slow. But we are hoping to see some result one day. It may not be in my lifetime, but I believe the society will conform to some sort of change. With all that is happening, change is going to come. It's going to have to come.
Sometimes there is a warped notion of what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman. And sometimes I say warped because sometimes people feel that being a man is having as many children as one can, or being a woman is I'm only valuable if somebody tells me, oh, I'm beautiful, oh, I have a nice body, I have a nice bumper, I have this and all this sort of a thing. So
that has to start in the home. That has to start at home with the parents, with their children. When you have a boy child and you have a girl child, that has to start with equality at home. You don't treat the boy different than the girl. In schools also, because it starts from small. The teacher should not treat the girl child different to the boy child in school. And if we start from grassroots and if we, start from small, I think that our society, can change. But if we just start now when they are older, it's a bit hard to curve.
Yeah. But being a man is having many children, or being a man is that you take responsibility for those children.
Right.
In times gone by, being a man, you're expected to be rough and tough and that kind of thing and so on. But with the gender is fluid and the roles are changing over time. And so you find that those roles are those jobs and so on that men used to do. Women are in all these fields. And I want to say again, back to the men. There are some men that I will call Mr. Mom. They're in there doing the very role that we were supposed to do, but they're taking on the roles that are changing, and so they some of them are very responsible. And in the home, they cook and clean and do everything, just like the sister or the brother would do, and so on. And I applaud them for that. Mind you, some people will say, "Oh, that they're weak and that ain't my job and that's a woman's job," and so on. But there's no label on any woman that say this is your job. And there's no label on a man that say this is your job. Sure. The job is a job. And anybody who can do it should be able to do it.
But sometimes there were labels. Like once ago you used to hear pink is for girls and blue is for boys. And of course when you get a girl child you put on a pink dress and you buy the blue for the boy and all that sort of a thing. Something as simple as that. Color being associated with gender. Now, of course, we are seeing that males are wearing pink, and girls are wearing blue and so on. But in fact, I like pink. But
in the more progressive society, colors, because of the fact that they've been sensitized and so on, and the more modern society and developed society and so on, this issue of yellow for boys and pink for girls and so on. Nobody's dealing with that. You see people put on whatever they want to put on. So I don't subscribe to this color business that boys should have a color and clothes is clothes for me. Whether it's pink, black or brown.
Right, but we have come a long way.
Yes, we have come a long way.
In terms of our thinking.
But again too, it's the way we were socialized, and as I said, The gender roles are changing, gender is fluid, so a lot of things is going to change over time.
Okay, Chanel, what is the Ministry of Gender Affairs, and in particular the Department of Gender Affairs, doing to celebrate women in general, and in particular activities for International Women's Day?
Okay, we started already on the 1st of March with the hashtag that I explained before. We are using different women each day to post on social media, just explaining what they are and who they are. We, as you know, the month has started already, so we already went to church because Sunday has passed. We normally do the church service on the first Sunday of the month, and we celebrated at the St. Peter's Anglican Church on Sunday. Tomorrow, which would be the 8th of March, we are going to have our breakfast award ceremony. We are going to award 8 women within our society in different areas. It's going to be at the St. Kitts, the Royal St. Kitts Hotel. We are starting at 8:30 sharp, hoping to finish at least by midday. On the 17th of March, we are hoping to partner with Ross. Okay, let me just go back a bit.
Sure.
Because yes, it's International Women's Day for us, but we are collaborating with Ross University Edge to bring out this day for us. They too are going to award different persons within the community, and I must say a thank you to them to come on board with the Department of Gender Affairs on this one. On the 19th of March, we are going to have a creative arts competition. It's going to be held within all high schools, where we're going to have one female draw a portrait of a woman in society, and we are going to see which school would be successful. We're going to ask that they transfer the drawing over to canvas material, and we would present it to that woman that we would choose. On the 22nd of March, we are going to do an open forum that would be in the Victoria Road Community Center, and the topic is child maintenance.
And I want to just say something, jump in here and say something. That particular topic is a very controversial topic, and I hope that the men would come out, because a lot of times when you have maintenance issue, only when they come to the department, they will tell you this is the first time they're hearing of certain things.
Yes.
So I'm inviting all of the men who have children, come out, because we're talking about gender equality here.
Right.
And gender equality must be across the board, not just for us as women.
Right.
So come out and take part in this very important forum, and know and try and hear everything that you need to know about child maintenance.
Yes, and it's going to be interesting because on the panel we would have a lawyer there, we would have a probation officer, we would have a police, and we would also have a magistrate. So all the questions that they would have about child maintenance and whatever is new in the legislation that they added, it's going to be there. You can come and you can hear all about it. They can also call in, but we prefer if you come. Call in is just for you to tell me what the question is. I direct it to the panel and they would answer. So you won't have a chance to talk on air. It's just for me to get the question and direct it to the panel. But it's better if you come and ask your question, and get the relevant information that they would need. Let me just go back a bit. On the 8th of March also, which is tomorrow after International Women's Day, the business and professional women will be having a march, Stop Violence Against Women march, and they are inviting the public to come on out and march. Our department will be there also marching and supporting them. It's going to start from the top of Church Street, and they are going to go all around up to 4th Street, and they're going to end in the Independence Square. They're asking that if you can wear purple, because that's the universal color for that day. And I think, Ms. Christopher, that's the color for domestic violence also,
yes.
Purple. So we're asking everybody please to come on and support business and professional women as they march tomorrow at 12 on the streets to stop the violence against women stop the violence against girls. So I'm just asking, I'm asking for them, for the public to come on out and support us tomorrow. Wear something purple, or walk with something purple. It's going to be quite interesting.
We need your support. The BPW need your support. So please come on out and support us. There's strength in numbers. People listen to you when there was a lot of people talking. So come on out and let us support. Let us support the BPW and show appreciation for the contribution of women to this country. So it's twofold. We are supporting the BPW with violence to prevent violence prevention against women and girls, and we also want to show appreciation for the contribution of women to this country.
Right. Is there anything else on the calendar of activities?
No, that should be it for now.
Okay, so you said there are 8 women who will be awarded for their contribution to the society.
Yeah.
What criteria did you use in terms of selecting those women, and what are some of the categories under which these women will be recognized or celebrated?
Okay, the areas that we use as a criteria would have been community involvement, which would have carried the most points, because it's about what you have done for your community, and also the achievement. Achievement didn't weigh much, but the community involvement, what they have done for free outside of their working hours, is what really played a role in selecting these women.
So the impact,
No.
did you look at
Right,
the impact
this is it.
that they would have had?
The
Because you
impact,
can...
the focus is the impact on the community. What you have done in the community after your regular hours. Not about your wonderful resume that you work for 40 something years and so on, and you have been doing this. You get paid to do that. What we want is what you leave your house in the afternoon after you have finished working, and go into those community and help to empower the community. That's where the focus is, the impact on the community.
Positive impact.
Yes.
Okay. This question, do you think in our lifetime we will see gender parity or equality? In
Maybe-
you and, you know.
Well, maybe not in my lifetime, because that is something that is very slow. But with the young generation that is coming up now, it's going to accelerate. And at some point in time, we may not achieve 100%, but we are going to make some serious and significant progress with the young generation.
Okay, this is
I may not see it in my lifetime.
this is an area that we probably do not like to touch, but of course we know that sex is biologically determined at birth. A man has a penis, a woman has a vagina. Gender, on the other hand, is socially determined and has to do with how people are socialized. Now, maybe Miss Christopher, you can talk about gender, because when we speak about gender, we are not just speaking about males and females, but you have the whole issue of the LGBT community and so on, that sometimes we are not comfortable in touching, but that would also fall under the category of gender.
Gender is about socially constructed behavior. It's all about behavior. Simply put, it's about socialization and behavior. With regards to the LGBT community, this government and many governments, well, I'm not quite clear on this one, but you see, when you sign on, when you sign on to these conventions and treaty and declarations and so on, some of them are binding on the country. And you can't take peace and say you don't want this peace.
Right.
So I'm not going to deal with peace people over here, but I want this over here. It don't work like that. When you go and sign on for these things, it includes everybody, and you have to treat everybody equally and fairly. So a department like ours, one of our role is to make sure that their voices are heard. So if they come to us with an issue, we have to lead on the issue that they come to us with.
Okay, good. Now, what is being put in place to realize women's empowerment, including on the legislative front in St. Kitts and Nevis? Because, I mean, we can speak about women's empowerment and women's advancement and so on, but sometimes these things have to be legislated.
Right. There are some legislation that I cannot recall right now, but there are legislation that speaks to the empowerment of women in this country, and it goes back some time, and plus what is happening now. And over time, the government have enacted, and I'm speaking now to especially the protection of women where violence and so on is concerned. The government have enacted a number of pieces of legislation for the protection of victims of violence, be it women or men. And I want to say here, we may be leading up to International Women's Day, and we may be talking, this conversation is going to go into domestic violence, I am assuming. But we all have to also realize there are a number of men out there too who are being seriously abused. But the thing is, it is so underreported. It is underreported. And we are expected to treat those men that show up at our offices the exact same way as we would treat a woman.
Why do you think that it is underreported? It goes back to the whole sensitization of socialization in terms of gender.
Right.
Because imagine me as a man going to the police station to report a case where my girlfriend beat me up and so on. What do you think they will do? They will laugh.
There you go.
Wouldn't they laugh?
It's a
They will laugh.
They will laugh.
It's a matter of pride. For some, it's a matter of pride. Because of the way we were socialized. For a man, it is very difficult for a man to go to the police and say, my girlfriend beat me up. Some will do that. But for the
They
man
think it's
who is-
emasculation.
Right. So they wouldn't want to go and report that. So that is one of the challenges we have with the reporting of men. But we know it's happening. It is happening out there. They come, and sometimes when they come, they will say they don't want this. They don't want this to go to have anything to do with the police. They we should.
But the abuse is not
and so on.
only physical.
But-
Sometimes it's
But I want to say here and now, there is legislation, and we're going into the domestic violence issue now. There is legislation in this country that speaks to domestic violence. It is there. It has been enacted since 2000, and it does not speak to women. It speaks to victim. And as I said before, a victim could be a man, woman, child, or whoever. As long as you are being abused, it speaks to that legislation. And there are penalties for that in the legislation. So yes, we have the abuse of men, we have the abuse of women, we have the penalties and so on. But what you'll find is that who are the persons who access the services with regards to domestic violence? They are mainly women. And so you'll hear people say, oh, they only looking about women. But if the men don't turn up, how we going to look about them? We went as far as to ensure that we assist the men in coming together and forming a national men's council. I don't know if you have heard anything about them lately.
no.
But they are there, and that is exactly why we help them to create this little forum that men could come and share and talk, because there are some things that are unique to men that they're not going to tell us, but they will share in these forum and so on. And I expect men who are suffering with regards to domestic violence, if they have the pride and they don't want to come, talk to somebody. You could send a third party if you want to, and assist and access the services that are at the department.
Yeah, but one of the things that when we hear violence, sometimes we think it is only physical.
No.
There's emotional violence.
You have verbal
and
abuse.
psychological violence.
Financial.
And financial
Yes.
violence and so on. So people are abused in you
Many
don't have
ways.
to hit somebody.
Right, people focus on the physical abuse, but you also have the verbal abuse. There are penalties. These are all a violation of the law. If you abuse a woman, if you abuse a man, you can be taken to court. If you physically abuse them, you can be taken to court. Psychologically, as long as the doctors are the experts say you psychologically abuse them, you can be taken up to court. Financial abuse, of course, we know what all sorts of financial abuse. You either withhold the money from the woman, or maybe the man himself is abused financially and so on. So you have all of those things within the legislation. If people will just take the time to either come out when we are having these little discussion, or read the legislation, or get people who know about it to help them to understand it, they will know exactly what to do when these signs pop up that they're being abused in whatever way.
Right. Now, you spoke a while ago, in depth really, about the functions of the Department of Gender Affairs in dealing with those issues. Rape, abuse, child abuse, domestic violence, and so on. Now, what is specifically your role
Okay.
as a Department of Gender Affairs? And how do you differentiate that from the role of, let's say, law enforcement?
A lot of people are confused with the role of the Department of Gender Affairs. And this is because gender affairs take the lead in certain things where the police probably would not lead. On the issue of domestic violence, and not just that, our department, the role of the Department of Gender Affairs, and I want to make sure I go slow so people could understand this. We are an advocacy, awareness raising, and making referral. That's our role, so people could access the services that are available. We are not the enforcement arm. We are not an enforcement arm. The law enforcement arm is the Special Victims Unit. So when somebody turns up at Gender Affairs, all that we can do is to explain to them the service that are available, make the referrals, and assist them in any way, and point them to the Special Victims Unit, where we expect, if the law has been violated, that the law enforcement will do what they have to do. And I hope the country is listening so they understand, coming to us to look for enforcement of the law with regards to the violation of the domestic violence legislation, Gender Affairs can't do anything. All we could do is the education and the awareness raising, and pointing you to where the services are. That's what our role is. So the next time you get a case of physical abuse mean all the signs are there. You got the cut, you got the bruises and so on. You go to the Special Victims Unit, who will look at you and send you to the hospital or to the doctor, wherever they have to send you, to make sure that you have that what you call it, that I call it the pink paper, but anyway, it's to get the information from the hospital to take back. And I would assume, if the doctor certifies that you have been physically abused, then I expect and assume the law will take its course. I cannot speak for the Special Victims Unit because I do not work there. All I can do is, when they show up with physical abuse or verbal abuse, is to send the victims to the Special Victims Unit. And I expect them to get justice. But in some cases, they would come back to us and say nothing is happening. And I also want to say, those of us who are in this field, one of the things we have to do is to take our personal feelings out of these things. It's not about us. When somebody show up there, they could come there 100 times. All you have to do is do your job. Don't come say nobody their confusion and they always come in, because that one time when you ignore them could be the thing between life and death. So I am appealing to my colleagues who work in this field, please to take these things seriously. Don't just dismiss them.
Now, sometimes the issue of abuse and violence and so on in relationships is one basically of power.
Power relation, yes.
It's a power relation.
Yes.
And who is more powerful? And sometimes what you have is that you have cases of people remaining in abusive relationships because somehow their self-esteem is not where it should be.
Right, there are different reasons.
And there are different reasons, for financial reasons and
they are
things like
insecure
that.
about something.
Right.
So they tend to stay in the relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the department doing? You speak about the empowerment of women, women's empowerment as part of your role, raising awareness and so on. What is the department doing to build the self-esteem of girls and women?
Well, last year we had a leadership workshop. We had 2 leadership workshops. No, year 4 we had 2 leadership workshops. We had one within the schools where we had the girls come to the workshop, and then we had another leadership workshop, and this one included the private and the public sector, but these were women in middle management, so they were exposed to that leadership course. Last year we had a entrepreneurship workshop, and that one was for low-income women who pursue or inspire to open their own business, whatever they wanted to do. They were welcome to the workshop. We didn't have the turnout that we expected to had, because we were expecting at least 30 women. We didn't have 30 women. The workshop ran for at least 3 days. Everything was provided, and we didn't get the 30 women. They had the lunch, they had a mid-morning snack. So I don't think, there were reasons for them not to attend. I know some of them work, but we were asking those that are at home to come on out. We called some of them their job places, and we asked for them to be excused that day. Some came and some didn't. So we're asking, when we have these workshops, we're asking that people come on out. And sometimes people tend to ask, what is gender affairs doing? That is what we are doing.
Yes.
Right? We have the workshops. It would only in the end benefit our country.
Sure.
Right? So we're asking them to come on out. And sometimes we call and we ask you, if you're gonna come. Many of them said yes, they're gonna come, but then on the day we don't see them, they don't show up. But it's for the betterment of our country.
Sure.
I want to compliment the private sector here, because they lose a great deal when they have to give up the time and so on, and sending these people to workshops and so on. But I also want to ask them to look at the participants that they're sending, because that is very important. It's no point just sending somebody to say you're sending somebody. You need to send somebody who could come back into the workplace and do something with the information that they have gathered from that workshop. And a lot of times, the people who come, they are people who already know. We want to reach the grassroots. The grassroots is where we want to reach, because those people in middle management and so on, they can take on certain things themselves. You have courses at the college and so on, and they'll do those things and so on. But it's the grassroots people that we want, and we don't want employers saying, "Oh, we can't afford you this day" and so on, because you see, the more you empower these people, the better off the workplace is going to be.
Right.
Now, Simone de Beauvoir, who was a French writer, an intellectual, existential philosopher, political activist, she once said that one is not born a woman, one becomes one. What do you think of that? How?
Again, it goes back to socialization, in my view, because you are going to become what you're socialized to become, because the socialization, as you quite rightly said, even start in the womb, because we start to treat, we don't even know who is there, whether it's a boy or girl, but we already start to make all sorts of preparation to socialize them into a certain path. And then it depends, what you become depends on your will, and that how should I put this, your determination to be exactly what you want to be. And sometimes you chart your own path towards where you want to go and what you want to be.
Once ago we had these terminologies: you're a gentleman or you're a lady. What would you call, or who would you call a lady? Because sometimes you see certain behaviors and so on, people say, "Oh, that is not very ladylike," or "that is not very gentlemanly."
Everybody have the different determination of a lady, I would say, because some would say you're well behaved and so you're a lady, but in other aspects, when something else happens, they can't believe that's the same lady. So I really don't know how to interpret or determine the gentleman or lady. I could only interpret it by what I see on the outside, I am
Right.
not with you 24/7, so I don't know if you really behave like a gentleman. I don't know if you really behave like a lady in all instances. But I guess your behavior all goes back to your values and your self-esteem and what you project to the public, and they will put that label on you. That is my
Now,
opinion.
now you know the Eleanor Roosevelt, who we spoke about before, who was the longest serving First Lady of the United States. She once said that well-behaved women really make history.
Really make history.
What do you think she means by that? Well-behaved women really make history.
Really, in the sense that rare.
Where?
Rare. There's something lacking if you're well behaved. I mean, it's not everybody destined to make history. But if you are so well behaved, and she and Eleanor feel that they should make history, and they really make it, to me, it's, I don't know, it's something that is lacking there. Why she has to make those comments? I really don't know how to answer
But
this
what
question.
what do you think she means by being well behaved? In other words, I suppose this press. Let's go back to the team.
yeah.
The team is, now the local team we say
Press for
is Press for
Progress.
Progress.
Yes.
You are well behaved, and you sit down and you say, well, oh, this is my place. I accept my place. And it seems to me as though this team is saying, well, look, we cannot just sit back on our laurels. We have to press for progress. It has to be something that is active. We can't take a passive role. We know that we are perhaps, discriminated in the workplace, and so on and so on. So to behave well, or society's definition of behaving well is that you're not going to make history.
Well, in that is, now that you have explained it again, in that instance, a boss once said to me, the meek don't inherit the earth. And I couldn't understand what he meant. And when I tried to figure it out, I was kind of a quiet and don't have much to say and so on. And I realized, well, when you're not speaking up, everybody's just passing you by. So you really, this push for progress fits into that particular situation very nicely, because if you don't keep pushing through, no matter how well behaved you are going nowhere.
Right. Now, like the march that you're speaking about. No, that is one action, is that you're pressing for something. But what I have come to realize is that in St. Kitts we love to march. We love to put people on display. We put the children on display. Everything is a march. But really, what does a march achieve? And how is that achievement measured? Because it seems to me that we have to do more than just march.
That's right. It's a show, march is just a show of support. Because beyond that march, you want to achieve something. And you cannot just do a march and just stay there. And when a march becomes ineffective, you have to try and find other means of getting your message across, whatever message you're trying to send. You don't have to just use a march. There are other ways. There are so many other ways that you can use. Because I find now
create awareness.
people are weary of marches.
I think
But
a march, man, is a
People-
protest. You see?
But if you have the right cause, people will march. But you can't just take up people every 2 minutes and say you're marching. Because in my opinion, that really don't work for too long.
Yeah, we've become a marching
But
society.
in this instance, International Women's Day, I really think this march is important. And why it is important, as I said before, we want to bring more attention to the violence, the increasing violence against women, that it has to stop. And we also want to pay attention to the contribution that women have made, will make, and are making.
No, we had an incident some time ago in Nevis. It was widely circulated on social media, where you had two boys taking some piece of a pipe or something and beating up a girl. And that was being projected, of course, as gender-based violence. I would have liked to situate that under a bigger umbrella, which is school-based violence,
It is
in
both.
which it is both,
yeah.
in which we have a problem with.
Right.
Okay.
You see, we say gender, we're so accustomed to say gender. And I mean, gender is cross-cutting, so that's the first thing is going to come. A boy and a girl is gender-based violence. But you also have to pay attention to the creeping issue of school-based violence. And that particular situation brought it out clearly, where you have to now put in things in place to avoid that. But I also want to go a little further. You see this National Men's Association? They could really play a big role in trying to help to socialize the boys, because some of what is happening comes out of is the socialization in the home. And maybe if it's a single-headed household where it's just a woman, there are some things that you just can't teach boys. You need that help. And when I look at that, I ask myself, where are the men? Where are the male teachers? Where are the mentors? Where are all of these people?
Right.
We talk and we go on the radio station and make nice presentation how your young people are doing this, and the boys are this and the boys are that. And 4 o'clock when all the men finish working, they gone home and they're peeping out till the next day. So they're out there in the community helping. They need to come out and help and stop talk. I mean, the people who have the information, they got to stop all this talking and let us see them in the communities. When we're in the communities and we look around, nobody out there.
Yeah.
But if you hear an award coming up, everybody want to know who is going to get this award. It don't work like that.
Yes.
Like for instance, we had last year we had on the 16th of November, we had 16 the campaign, and the 16 the campaign was about gender-based violence, stopping gender-based violence, doing something about gender-based violence.
Yes.
We had a march, and we expected, a big turnout, but we had one school didn't attend, but we were expecting more persons from the community. We were expecting the church. We were expecting everybody to come out and march with us. The march, to me, it was not as successful as we would have liked the march to be. I was quite disappointed, because I'm like, we are out on the streets
Trying to raise
we are
awareness.
asking the children to come along, and they had their placards with us,
The children
and there
were
was
there?
like, stop gender-based violence. We had a lot of noise, but then we have people on the side of the road just watching on. What about if you join in with us? It's okay. I'm not seeing anything wrong with it. We also had the Pioneer Theatre also did an act down by the old treasury where they started to fight, and we just wanted to see what would have happened. And what happened is that the school children, they stand back. Some of them pull a phone to say like, ma'am, look, like, people fighting. Some people, stand on the side and talk. But ma'am, look how he just banging up the woman. But what are we doing as a society?
Yes.
Right? It was just an act. So I stood there because I know. We're just supposed to, stand there and see what's going to happen.
Right.
But I expect, somebody on this side to come along
people
and
are
say,
standing,
like,
as you
let's-
correctly said,
Right.
and filming.
right.
Standing and filming instead of trying to do something in terms of what is happening.
Right.
How have we become so
And
persons who are so
that is what a march is. A march is a protest. And it can only work if our people, be a part of it. Be some sort of change. Sometimes we have a march and people will be like, oh, they ain't got no music. The march is not about music. The march is a protest. The march is a cry that we are crying out. We need help. Our people, our women, our girls, boys too, all of us, we need help in the community. So instead of pulling out your phone, come on the side, pull the man away from the woman. As a man, come talk to the next man, talk to him, ask him, what's happening? What's going on? How can I assist you in any way?
Yes.
If I can assist you. But you see, the problem is us as a people. We think it's fun, right? We think it's news to spread around on social media. But I'm saying,
we laugh at it.
And we laugh of it. But the harm that it causes is unknown.
And I am long to see a day when I would see, sometimes as I said about marches, you're weary of them. But I am trying in my mind to see if I could recall any event where I see a lot of men on the street marching. I can't recall seeing that. And it's time, men, get up. You're fed up of the violence, you're fed up of everything.
Right.
Get up and show it.
Yes.
They hit the streets just like us, because we've been
Men
talking
against domestic violence.
Right.
We've been talking
Right.
and talking
Right.
and talking, and they
Have you ever
women just
considered
talking.
forming a group like that? The Ministry of Gender
they
Affairs,
have the
Men
national-
Against.
There's
They
the Men's
have
Council.
the National Men's Council. And we assist them, but for some reason it's not getting, it's not, I don't know what else to do. So I am asking anybody out there who could help, all of the people out there who have ideas, men who have ideas and could help,
Join the
please
men's
wrap
council.
yourself around the men's council and help them, lift them, help them to get off the ground and do something. We got to stop the talking and move to action. We got to move into the next phase. We tired talk. We talk so much. We're beating this thing to death. We got to get up and hit the road.
Right.
Parents, go out there in the numbers. And you say you're fed up with this thing? Well, then let's do something about it.
Yes.
And women alone can't do it.
Right. No,
Gender alone can't do it either.
Gender alone can't do it.
We need the
police
community
alone can't do it.
assistance. Right. Right.
Okay, now I want to ask you two questions before we go to the phone lines. We'll have some limited time with calls, but one, well, this is a comment I want to make in terms of your support for the political representation of women, more women. And Margaret Thatcher once said that in politics, if you want anything said, ask a man. If you want anything done, ask a woman. Would that support your argument for more representation of women in politics?
I always say, when a man is going to say maybe, a woman is going to say let's go. And so from that, my thing is, if you really and truly want anything done, tell a woman. The message is going to get out there sound and it's going to be clear.
Okay.
So
you
if you
support
want
what she
things
has said.
change in the political realm, put a woman. Put a woman, put more women in there and make the difference. We want to work alongside our men. We want to be allies. We want our
Right.
men, and we want to have gender equality in politics. I don't know when we're going to get there with the equal thing, but we could start from somewhere.
Okay, now the other question I want is that women are sometimes viewed as sex objects, whether it is the advertising of a Coca-Cola on TV and so on, and you see a woman, coming across the screen, scantily clad and so on in, bath suit or whatever the case is. Do you think that women contribute to this sexual objectification view of themselves?
I would say yes, they do at a certain extent. But when we are gonna have like manufacturers or seamstress or whoever they are, men designers, they're making the clothes, so we expect the women to wear them, right? When we have the ads on TV, it's about, as you say, a Coke or whatever, and who they ask to do these ads, they ask women to do the ads. When they have a car wash and they're advertising the women up on the car,
So it's a sex appeal.
right?
But then in that appeal, as I said, it's almost as though women seem to be marketed as a sex object.
Right.
Well, we have to take a serious look at our self-worth. And we have got to stand up and say we are not going to do certain things. But of course I could sit here and say that for me. But there are women out there who will say, oh well, you could say that. If they paid me this and they paid me that, why not? But the other thing is, even if people like to talk about the way women dress,
Because
It may
I've
not-
heard
it may
Miss
not be-
Christopher
it
that some
may
people
not
say,
be-
oh, she caused it on herself.
it may not be
She
the
gets
best.
raped. Look at how they dress.
Yes.
You've heard that argument
Right. Yeah.
coming. I'm a man, but you heard that
Right.
argument coming from men.
Yes, it may not be the best thing, and the way they carry themselves. But at the same time, that does not give a man the right, because she dressed like that, to rape her.
Right.
And somebody will have to explain to me, who give them that God-given right to decide because I dress like this, that you're going to rape me? Of course, I must dress myself clad properly. And it goes back to my self-esteem and my self-worth and all of that, but it doesn't give the right to want to rape me because my dress may be a little short. I'm not encouraging the short dress because I believe women should cover themselves properly. I really believe in that.
But there are some people who say, well, look, the way that you dress communicates. It's non-verbal communication, and so you are sending an invitation. That is how it's viewed, but I totally agree with you, is that people should have self-control and should have respect for other people, and so on.
If I look at it another way, if they say it's the way people dress, when the tourists come here, I see them in town,
That's
They
right.
got a little piece of thing here, they got just the bikini panty, or they got just a little short pants and so on and thing and so on. But people are exercising self-control. How come they don't jump all over them? They exercise self-control
Yes.
then. But they need to just learn to exercise self-control.
And people exercise self-control in the diet.
And we got
as
to
we
set
talked
up a
about
standard.
yesterday, they do that in terms of maybe substance abuse. So then you can do that. Otherwise, you're seeing the food, you're seeing the alcohol, and you don't want to touch it. So it's the same thing. You see a woman, that doesn't mean that you have to touch her.
So it's absolutely no excuse. It's
None.
a
There is no excuse to go out there rape nobody.
Exactly. Good. I agree. Now let us go to the phone lines and hear what our callers have to say. The numbers to call are 465-2555. That's the local number. And the international number is 1-718-577-2916. That's 1-718-577-2916. We welcome your calls. No one is on the line at the moment. So we'll continue our discussion. So
Okay, Mr. Williams, you talked about International Women's Day, and you were talking about you asked about the areas. I didn't mention the areas, so maybe now I can mention the areas that we are going to award these women in. And there are 8 categories. We have education, manufacturing and industry, culinary arts, media and entertainment or media entertainment, religion, agriculture, community service and medicine.
okay.
So those are the 8 areas that these women will be awarded.
Okay. We might have someone on the line. There's a British author working for you. Good afternoon.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
and good afternoon to the good ladies here from the Gender Affairs.
Good
Yes.
afternoon.
Now, Mr. Gladiator?
No, she's not here.
Oh, okay. Now, let me tell you all something. This brutal attack on woman by man, I don't think it is fair. And it's time now that woman stand up and march
That's right.
for these things
That's right.
were happening to women in the federation. Now, let me tell you something. Before women stand up and march and condemn all these criminal acts against women, they criticize the woman them who get in these acts. There is a man too, and I don't feel like it's fair that a woman gonna get in this kind of criminal act by men. They got daughters, they got children, they got sisters. I got sisters, I got brothers. You know, and I would like to see my brothers and me cause no brutal attack on no woman. I do not think it's fair. And I think now the law supposed to come down on man doing these criminal acts towards women, whether sexually abuse, verbal, physical abuse, come down on them with some kind of law that when a man decides to raise his hand to hit a woman, the hand just dead. But I know what I don't get if I put my hand on this young lady. I do not listen. This young lady, these 2 young ladies, like my daughter, he like my brother, he like my sister, everything. Up to now, I can't get over this thing, brother. I cannot get over it, and I condemn all those women put up bad against these young ladies who get in where they get into, other women who get into those things. All right, wonderful program. You all have a
Okay.
wonderful
Thank
day.
you. Okay. You want to say something?
I agree with the caller, right? But what I'm asking the public to do is know the act. Know the Domestic Violence Act. Know what it entails. Know what you can do about it. Ms. Christopher talked about it, and we are in the process of bringing on stream the Domestic Violence Protocol and the updates on it. Ms. Christopher can talk more on the protocol, but I'm saying know what it is. Right? The caller is saying the right thing, that we should come on out and march and stand up for our rights, but knowing the act is what is important here.
We have drafted a domestic violence protocol, and the protocol will be approved shortly. What it speaks to is the process where the different agencies has to follow. If your point of entry with violence is at the hospital, there's going to be a process, more or less like a checklist that they have to do all of these things and then sign off with the report. If it comes to gender,
Working for you, good afternoon. Sorry, Mrs. Christopher. Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gents.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, you were speaking about women from Bible time, you know, when God made Adam and Eve, first parents.
Yes.
Women were never made to work. Is Adam went to till the earth, you know, and women have to Eve stay home. That's what she was home, you know, is when the serpent beguiled and tell her these things. But she goes to work daily in the Garden of Eden. The Bible said till the earth. See, women were made to be home, get the dinner and the children after school and do things like that. But because of sin made the difference. Sin comes in, and then, you know, Adam, because of Adam, Eve gave Adam the fruit, but the fact remained. The serpent said to her, the God do not want you to know what he know. See how smart the serpent is? Well, you will want to know what God knows, so you eat. And then she gave to her husband. So that is how the sin come in. And then that's how we have to go to help, you see, because, you know, sometimes you have children and you so much different things to do. And you say, well, I better go out to help he can. You see, that's how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Working for you, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon to you, Mr. Williams, and good afternoon to Ms. Christopher there. And I just want like to ask a question. Ms. Christopher, when you talk about men being abused and they are not coming forward, do you think we have the right people inside those areas to address this issue in terms of abuse, people being abused by male and female? In terms of the male, do you think we have the right people in there when we only have female majority of workers in there is female to address this issue, or you think we need to get men to deal with men and women to deal with women in any abusive situation? I would like to know, because at the same time, I think we're missing now, because that's one reason why I don't think people should just come forward, because they don't think that they have the correct person inside there, or their gender inside there, to look at them and put themselves in that kind of position here. So that is a big part of it. So I would like to hear you respond.
yes. I spoke earlier about the uniqueness of men and women. There are some things that are unique to men. And I agree with you. If you're going to have this agency, you must have a gender balance in there. Because people are going to come in. What we experienced in the Department of Gender Affairs, when it was women's affairs, that stigma carried over into gender. And what you found was that the men was not coming forward because there was never a man in there to talk to. And we recognize that. And so we move to have both male and female officers. So if you come to the Department of Gender Affairs and you do not want to speak to a woman, you have a choice that you can make. You can speak to either a woman or a man, and that is left up to you. I cannot speak for the other agencies, but I do believe that that is the way to go. You cannot have an all-woman agency dealing with domestic violence or any type of violence. Yes. So where that exists, it needs to be changed. And again too, it also comes with training, because it's no point having people in there and they're not trained, and you go in and you have your issues and they really can't help you, and they just dismiss you, they listen and they just dismiss it. So I agree with you, sir. We need to look at the persons who man these agencies and who man these departments.
Okay, there was a lady who raised some issues that were under the area of religion. And what I can say is that there are some persons who use religion, and there are some religions where women are basically seen as inferior. Now, I do not think that anyone should use religion to demean women. Neither do I think that religion speaks to, if that is some people's interpretation, especially for me who would have studied theology and so on. I don't think that religion is any basis for putting women down, or to thinking that this is a woman's role in the home and that she can't go out into the field to work and all of that sort of a thing. These dichotomies we really have to stay away from. We live in a changing world, and if there are some persons who can stay at home and whatever it is, it's their choice. But you must not restrict people to these and shove them in a corner.
I am not no expert on religion, and that is something I try to stay away from, because everybody have their own belief about things. What I would like to say though, that may have worked very well back in those times.
Yes.
But in today's reality, it's not going to work.
Changing
Well,
times.
you may probably have a few women who chose to stay at home, and that is of their own, they want to do that. But there are so many challenges confronting the family now that women are forced to go out to work. I don't think it's everybody. Women would like to stay at home and socialize their children. But you also have to look at the other challenges that they face. You can't just hard and fast and say the Bible say you must stay at home and look after the children.
But she said it was because of sin, which I totally disagree with.
Right. So that is my take on that. The reality right now, the reality now does not lend itself to that sort of thinking, and people not subscribing to that. This is a young generation. We got to understand that the generation change and everything is going to change with it.
Right, especially not with the high rate of the single parent home right now. That's not possible.
Right. Okay, now we have to wrap up this program. Do you have anything to say before we go? We are basically out of time.
We are asking for the support of the general public with regards to International Women's Day and the march that we are about to collaborate with the business and professional women. We want that show of support. Again, I say, for one, to help us to send the message that this violence against women has to stop, and to really show the appreciation for the work that our women do in this country. I mean, we have a triple burden. We have to work in the public, in the private sector, and we still find time to work in communities. And so, as we go through raising our families and so on, we ask that the country support us. The Department of Gender cannot do it alone. As I've said before, we are more or less an awareness referral or advocacy department, and we can only put the message out there, and when the issues come to it, we could raise the issues and so on. But when it comes to violence, the enforcement, we cannot enforce the law. We are not law enforcement officers. And people who are suffering, they need to come forward. Come forward and get the help that you need. We have a number of choices or options in the Department of Gender. If you come with an issue, you can get pastoral counseling, you can get clinical counseling, you can get legal aid, you can get social assistance. Come to the department and tell us what your issues are, and we will work with you. But there's a serious challenge with regard to the people at the Special Victims Unit, because I speak to them regularly, and one of the challenges they have is that people come to the police with these cases, and when it's time to go to court, they say they don't want to go to court. I'm not going to court. I don't want it to go to court. But if you take it there and the people break the law and you reach that far, then frankly speaking, when you reach to the point where you go to the police and they break the law and the police have to do their work, if you withdraw that thing from court, you should be made to pay some sort of penalty, because the next thing you know, you take it out and tomorrow they kill you, then you can say, oh, I went to the police and they didn't do anything. So if you are going to take the route of going to court, you cannot take the thing out of I wouldn't say you cannot, but I would not encourage you to start this process and then back away from it, because that's exactly what the perpetrator wants, to continue that kind of behavior.
Okay, Mr. Williams, at this time, allow me to just thank the sponsors who are long-standing supporters, who always on board with the Department of Gender Affairs. So just allow me to say thanks to ZIZ Broadcasting, Jaro Limited, Ross University, Island Bakery, USAID, Harper's Office Depot, Sensational Shoreline Plaza, Development Bank, Scotia Bank, and I must say, a hearty thanks to SKNIS, who is always on board at every event. They are there for us. And also thanks to Cajola Cristado for always there for us. So we just want to say thanks, and we ask the public to come on out tomorrow at 12 and march with the department. Just don't stay at home and say, yeah, they're gonna march. No, come, we need your support. We're asking the men to come on out and march with us also. We want to thank you for being here, Mr.
And
Williams.
I want to thank my hard-working staff, and I could not leave here without showing them with praise. I had nothing to do with this activity. I have four staff members, and we have our mandate is very large, because apart from planning all of this thing, they have their work to do. And I am so happy that I got those people to work with. I want to thank them so much from the bottom of my heart. I want them to know I appreciate them. They are hard-working people, and I will do everything in my power to see that they're treated right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mrs. Christopher and Mrs. Charles, for being on today's program and highlighting some of the achievements and the challenges, the role, the contribution of women in our society. This certainly is very important, as we want to have inclusive and a society that is inclusive, that really celebrates women, celebrates men, and where there are no issues in terms of people being boxed in a corner because you're a woman, and so on. And I end with a quote, of course, from Charlotte Bronte, who was an English author. We know that. She says, "I am neither a man nor a woman, but an author." Because when we start seeing those things and defining people according to those things, and that is where we fall into trouble. And discriminating against people based on those things, and we become sexist and racist and all of those sort of things. Things that we are not responsible for. I didn't choose to be born a man, or you didn't choose to be born a woman. These are things that we did not choose, and so therefore decisions and so on, when they are being made, should not be made based on people's gender. And again, nobody should be subject to violence based on their gender, based on their sexual orientation, based on their race, their nationality. That is just a no-no. Thank you so much.
Again, when women succeed, the entire country benefits.
So that's
Thank you.
Miss Christopher quote.
Yes.
That's Miss Christopher's quote.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for listening to today's program. I want to thank all of our callers and those of you who continue to be with us from week to week. This has been another edition of Working for You. I am Les Roy Williams. Have a good day, and we will see you next week. Stay up to date with news, programs, and activities of the government with SKNIS. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter. And watch our videos on YouTube. Connect with us today. SKNIS, St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.